back, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about a very, topical issue. It's kind of interesting how, for good or bad, I'm not sure which it is, but really politics and the world, every geopolitical things and macroeconomic type things have really seeped into everyday life. Obviously, politics has always been in our life, but since the last couple of years, obviously, all of you know, whichever side you're on. It's really kind of creeped into everything. Like you can't go to the grocery store without arguing with somebody about politics. But the simple fact is that we need to recognize this, and we need to recognize that it moves stocks, particularly when it comes to hot sectors. So when we talk about hot sectors, so many of these have been driven by government funding, war, conflict, initiatives, regulation, etc. So I'm going to go back to like one of given a story and then kind of talk about how we can trade these. So I think back to I've traded agricultural futures once in my life, one time. Okay, I was bored. This is like 15 years ago. You can probably Google it. You could probably Google Russian wheat fires, and I'm guessing it was probably like 2010 or something, okay? So I'm kind of bored. I'm just kind of sitting at my computer, reviewing my trades, typing in my my data, going through my stuff, and I see this headline that there's this big wheat fire in Russia, and I believe it's Z/ZW is the futures contract for wheat, and I'm just like, what the heck, let's try it, So I bought one or two contracts or something, and like within seconds made like $750 in like literally seconds. And I didn't know what to do. I'm just like, I like basically panic sold, made $750 in like a minute or so, which, back then I was still kind of building up still learning, I was still pretty new. So that was a nice win for me. And basically that was a great example of, trading something that ultimately ended up being nothing. Like they put the fire out that night. Didn't even affect the price of wheat over any type of long period. I mean, I think price of wheat went up for a few days and came all the way back. Now, not a trading strategy I would recommend. I'm just pointing out the fact that something that was happening on the other side of the world that ultimately had no bearing on what happened in the world a couple days later created a trade opportunity. And that's kind of what we're talking about today. It's not like it was a press release on a penny stock. It's not like it was a new product from Tesla or something like that. It was just a geopolitical event. And I think back to many, many times oil and gas runs. Many of you might be familiar with this. I actually have an entire list, a spreadsheet of about 100 stocks that I always go to anytime there's something happening, in the oil-rich countries. Something happens in the Strait of Hormuz. Oil spikes, oil stocks spike. Saudi Arabia starts fighting with somebody or influencing OPEC, and oil stocks come running. So it's very important to know what's going on in the world and looking for trading opportunities. Like I think of like getting angry about politics, getting angry about war, getting angry about regulations doesn't do anything for you. Like you can get mad about the price of gas going up, which nobody likes, but if you know what signs to look for, and you know what stocks to look for, you start seeing that saber rattling or some tanker getting locked down or whatever, there's trading opportunities there very quick, right away. I mean, the global markets react instantly. So that news is what we look for, and it's really the same stuff. Like you might be asking, maybe looking at the video right now and being saying, well, what do you look for, Tim? It's the same stuff. Like it just repeats. Now it doesn't happen 10 times a year, but a couple times a year, you're going to see an oil and gas stock run. You're going to see, defense. Every time there's some war that crops up, you'll see the defense contractors run. You'll see drone plays run. There are these events, agricultural type stuff, usually around harvest and planting season. Typically you'll have all of this news in the mainstream media about a wet spring and they're not going to be able to get the crops in on time. You'll look for this stuff. It's like it happens every year. One of the advantages of being around, of just staying in the game, is you'll start recognizing these cycles. Then fall, they'll talk about, oh, the drought all summer long, yields are going to be down, and then yields come in right where they were supposed to be at. But there's trading opportunities there, and they're playing the game. I mean, especially the big hedge funds, they're just gaming the media and gaming these trades, and you can do that as a small trader. Next is hot sectors. Like you'll see this, green energy. I mean, in my 17 years, I bet you we've had at least 10 green energy stock runs where it becomes the hot theme. The grant money goes out, the government regulations come out, they start pushing for windmills or pushing for solar panels. All of a sudden, some solar panel manufacturer gets some $20 billion grant from the government, and now everyone starts looking for the little solar panels. So you see the green energy stock run happen over and over again. Knowing to look for the signs, the government money, the regulations, that's what you look for. Don't overstay in the low-priced ones. We know that they spike and fade on the hype, but you can trade the hype, and you can short the fade of the hype. Like, that's another thing. All of these events, all of these hot sectors, listen, the great thing is once the hype fades, once you quit seeing the headlines, you can short them on the backside too if you're an agile trader. Other ones we've seen over and over again is medical devices. Medical devices get hot, they come and go. Artificial intelligence, we've seen 2 separate runs this year. Obviously, that's a newer hot sector, but I expect to see AI get hot again this fall. Electric vehicles, every time Tesla does something, they get hot. iPhone launches, actually the iPhone 15 just launched today. You'll see all these little suppliers and accessory makers run up into those events. So the biggest solution on how to do this, and I know I kind of touched on this, is like, don't underestimate the power of journaling and writing things down and tracking patterns. Like, there's too much information out there. Like, I think back to when I got started trading, we always struggled with a information disadvantage. Like, you always knew, this is 2005, 2006, you always knew you didn't have the whole story. Like, there was no Twitter back then. All of the chat rooms were a scam. It's like basically your only resort back then was to follow the mainstream media sources. And you're like, I know they're not telling me everything. I know they're probably just trying to manipulate me to trade the other side. So now what we've had with the explosion of all of these data sources, again, Twitter, aka X, and just the democratization of information. Like, you used to have a $25,000 a month Bloomberg. You don't anymore. If you use StocksToTrade, you have access to breaking news chat. These guys have Bloombergs, okay? They're filtering the information and giving it to you, and that's something we really focus on at StocksToTrade is that democratization of technology and information. So you don't have to, pay the hedge fund prices to get access to hedge fund information. And at the end of the day, it's just cycles. Like, I remember that wheat trade. I remember what happened. I remember where I was sitting, like the computer I had and everything. And don't underestimate the value of just putting in seat time, like a chair. I know that's not sexy and it's not fun and people don't like hearing that, but so much of pattern recognition, so much of knowing how the game gets played and what things have worked in the past and what's going to work in the future is just being able to recognize that. And I think people don't like that. Like, people want a quick fix. They want a pill. They want a potion. Obviously, we see that in the world we live in. Like, hey, I don't want to, eat right and exercise for 6 months. Just give me a pill. And trading is a lot like that. People want the shortcut and the excuse. Just, how do I know how to trade oil? Well, in my opinion, the best way to know how to trade oil is to trade oil through 3 or 4 cycles over a couple years, and now you learned it. So have that long-term mindset, and I know it's the 3rd time in this video. Write stuff down, journal. It's not like you even need to go back and read it, but by putting your thoughts in what you've seen and what you've traded and what you've done, putting it down on paper or digitally, it locks it into your brain. And it's no different than like learning a language, like something like, what do you do if you're trying to learn Spanish? Well, you read and write Spanish. You speak Spanish. And you don't learn it in a week. You don't learn it in a month. But the more you read it, the more you write it, the more you speak it, now all of a sudden you learn it. And that's the same with trading, hot sectors, news, geopolitical events, and political events. The same stuff. I'm telling you, I've seen the same stuff over and over again for 17 years, and probably I think it's going to be the same for the next 17. There'll be new stories. AI is new, but the thing with AI is it's no different from green energy or electric vehicles or medical devices or weed or any of these things. It's the same patterns. It's the same idea. It's just new words. Like instead of medical devices, it's artificial intelligence. So, speaking of reviewing and learning and seeing what happens every day, the best way to do that is to see it live. The Daily Income Trader System, you can click that link below, 100% live, 6 times a week or 6 times a day during the week, and 2 times on a weekend. We go live showing you breaking news, showing you the scans, showing you how to journal, showing you how to review, showing you how to trade. So if you're looking to take it to the next level, click that link. It's just a registration page, 100% free. You can pick a time that works for you. We do them as early as 8 in the morning, 8 Eastern, and as late as 9 Eastern. So wherever you are, and again, weekends too. I think you're crazy not to click that link and at least check one out. Hopefully, we'll see you on an episode of the Daily Income Trader System.